Hi everyone, this is daveac and this is my vblog 168 for Friday the 7th of October 2011. Now, do I listen to a podcast, read a sci-fi novel, or watch a Doctor Who DVD as I enjoy my wine? Well, I'm not going to do any of those three at the moment, but I am going to enjoy a wine at the end of this 15-minute vlog. And let's get on with it. And I'm going to start off with some slightly sad news, of course, that you will probably have heard of by now, and that is that Steve Jobs, one of the two co-founders of Apple, with Steve Wozniak, I think, was the other chap, but Steve sadly lost his life. His battle with cancer, died at the age of 56. So very sad. The world needs innovators and designers like him. So a lawful of people very sad about that. Of course, it came just after Apple had announced their new phone, but not the phone that some people were hoping for, not the Apple iPhone 5, but the Apple 4S, which has a new dual chip processor in it. And of course, I think it's the A5 processor in it, and it has upgrades to the video and camera and the software, the OS 5, of course, but still slightly disappointing some people that it wasn't the new iPhone 5. But on the other hand, I mean, this is really sad news for the innovation and the industry moving forward. We need people with vision at the head of these industries. So, very sad news. Okay, let me just mention a couple of little tech items that I've got before I go on to my usual starting topic, which is podcasts. Just a couple of things. If, like me, by the way, you don't just use Google Mail or Hotmail, but you have an email for your ISP, you may well use an email program. It sounds as though they're getting out of fashion with younger people, but I prefer to have it, and I use one called Thunderbird. And that has just had a major update to Thunderbird 7. It sounds good, that. Thunderbird, so I go. Hey, mate, get that, David. Okay, so Thunderbird 7. And the other little bit of tech news, and this is more for people here in the UK, the BBC, which is where we get a lot of our TV programmes, remember, you pay a licence fee, a yearly fee, but you don't have to endure all those advert breaks when you're watching your programme. But the government with the BBC, they've frozen them increasing that licence fee up until about 2017. So the BBC is in a real position of trying to cut down their costs and so on. Indeed, they're trying to make a 20% saving. And the reason why I'm mentioning all this is one of the things they're doing is rationalising some of the channels and so on. And one thing that is happening sooner than we expected, and that is to do with BBC have two high-definition channels at the moment. BBC One HD mirrors exactly what the content is on BBC One, the standard definition. But they had the second high-definition channel called BBC HD, and that would draw programmes from BBC Two, BBC Three, BBC Four, and even from BBC 24 News. That is now going to be rebranded as BBC Two HD and mostly mirror what BBC Two churns out, with just one or two headline programmes coming from BBC 3 and 4. So that will be interesting for people in the UK, I think. Okay, let's go on to get back to the podcasting. Well, my week's got a little bit easier because the Hitchhiker's Guide to British Sci-Fi that's been going live every Sunday for the last 10 weeks, while Torchwood was on, has now come to an end for the moment. I think Liz will be doing some live ones again soon, but we're taking a break from that, which meant I didn't have to do 3 shows in quick succession on Sunday. In fact, what happened at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on the Culton Collective, Talk Show ID 54821, we did about the final episode of Doctor Who Series 6, and that is episode 13, The Wedding of River Song. And then I scroll, and I should just say, Ian's not on that a great deal because he's doing his lovely stuff. He's helping the director with setting up a production of Annie on the stage. And so he called in, sent in a little bit of a review, but couldn't stay long on the show. But it was great, and he's enjoying it, working hard, poor lad. Anyway, we did that, and then I went over to the Doctor Who Podshock, podshock.net, to help Lewis on their review of The Wedding of River Song. And it was great because Ken Deep, who I think for new work commitments has been unable to come on some of the live shows recently, so it's great to have him on the show, and hopefully you'll find that and the Cultman Collective up on the iTunes feeds. And also on midweek, in fact it was more like Thursday, we put up the Cultman commentary on The Wedding of River Song. Oh, and with the Cultman tweet, it's just Cultman, our Twitter feed, I also put a back catalogue episode to remind people to have a listen back to our Torchwood mid-season review, because this Sunday, now Doctor Who's ended, we're going to do our final review of the Torchwood Miracle Day. So I hope you can join us 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Torchwood. Of course, with Doctor Who ending, it's not all sad, because the same night the first episode of the new Merlin aired, and that was in HD, so that was great. And of course, we have 3 stories of Sarah Jane Adventures, 6 episodes. Monday and Tuesday of the week that's just gone, we saw the first story. I enjoyed it very much. And we've got 2 more complete stories, and then that's Sarah Jane Adventures over, sadly. But there are other things coming up. Of course, if you have Sky in UK, they've just premiered the first episode of Terra Nova, and it's worth, excuse me, it's worth a look. But you'll have, as Lewis says, you'll have seen it all before. But it's done very, very well. It is a big budget sci-fi program. Okay, well, that's the little bits of tech. That's the podcasting. I've got a book to do, but before that, I wanted to go back to my Doctor Who Day of the Daleks DVD. It's a 2-disc box set. Cost me nearly £14. That's $20. Probably only $13 or $14 in the States. But I've got it playing here on one of the extras, and it's the making of. Oh, there's Nick Briggs. Let me just get this going, because it's been stuttering on me. So I've left it playing, and I'm just going to bring the volume up.
Reach the targets on the next work period.
For the next work period, target figures will be increased by 10%.
So there was a suggestion that we try to replace them. The problem with this story is that all we have is the final mono mix. We don't have the dialogue separately. We don't have the Dalek voices, the original Dalek voices separately. We don't have the music separately. So if you're going to put new Daleks on, you've got to take the old Daleks off. Of course, when you take the old Daleks off, any music that's under them, sound effects that's under them, other people talking that's under them, that all comes off as well. So the first job was a tricky one, lifting bits of sound and even tape noise from elsewhere in the story. So I could take the Daleks out, so that it would sound as if they'd never been
Really
there.
take a lot of care on this.
It was very tricky. But eventually, apart from a couple of points where they trod on other people's lines, they did come out pretty cleanly. I was very pleased with it.
What is your report?
We have a fix on the time transfer device. It is operating again in the 20th century time zone.
And I'll just slow the volume down and pause it at that. Yep, it's always great. Let me get the camera back. It's always great, the extras on these DVDs, and definitely well worth buying. I recommend that highly. Day of the Daleks. There's a lot of blurb on there. Freeze frame it. Brilliant DVD. Okay, well, 9.5 minutes, so we're doing nicely. We should get to the wine shortly. But remember, I said that I was going to start this book and talk about it this week. Well, I've only got about 40 pages into it. It's Clifford Simak, Why Call Them Back from Heaven. So I'm not sure I can recommend it completely yet. I read it years and years ago, but what I'm going to do is just read a little bit from it, and then next week I'll say whether I recommend it as a book. This is to do with a building, this vast building and organisation called the Forever Centre. You know, this building's 5 miles high, and you know, it's become a very important part of the world. And let me just read a little bit of it. Big in many ways, big in the hold it had on the public imagination, which in many instances now constituted a firm belief in not only the purpose of the programme, but in its capacity to carry out its programme. Big in the participation with millions of frozen bodies stored away to await revival. This is all about people wanting immortality. And perhaps most impressive of all, big in its assets and investments. For all those millions who had now laid frozen and left their funds in trust for the Forever Centre, and one day the world awoke to find that the Forever Centre was the largest stockholder in the world, and that in many instances it had gained control of vast industrial complexes. Now, too late, governments realised that they were powerless to do anything about the Forever Centre, if in fact they had wanted to do anything about it at all. For to investigate it, to license, to restrict it in any way, would have been flying not only into the face of an entrenched financial position, but also in the face of an awakened public interest. So there was nothing to be done, and the Forever Centre became more powerful and more invulnerable. And today, thought Frost, it was the government of the world and the financial institutions of the world, and that in fact the world's one hope. But it was a hope that was dearly paid for, a hope that had nearly made tight-fisted money grubbers of the people of the world in general. Frost, he'd gone without a pint of milk he'd wanted, a pint of milk that his body had cried out for when he ate his lunch. And that lunch had been 2 thin sandwiches from a paper bag. And all this because each week he must put a good part of his salary away into forever stock, so that during those long years when he lay dead and frozen, those funds would multiply by interest and dividend. He lived his life in a wretched room, and he ate in cheap food, and he never married. And the whole point is that the sheer thought of having immortality and all the assets they would need to have a life there, people basically were, foregoing so much. And of course, like all good science fiction, it's about social things taken to an extreme and what that does to society and the Earth's future. So I'll come back to that next week and say if I think it's a recommended read. I seem to remember it was from a reading of it about 30 years ago. Well, 13 minutes, I think I'm ready for a wine. Now, you'll notice it's not a full bottle. It's, let's get it right, Mundula Vineyard, Limestone Coast, Wine of Australia, 2009, Shiraz, selected by Tesco, you can see there. Freeze frame it, and it's, I think, 13.5%. Okay, you've got a good look at that. The reason is I'm recording this, well, actually it's nearly 10 o'clock at night now, but because I was doing it after my tea, and I was having a spaghetti bolognese for my tea, I thought, really, a lot of these wines, and this one is as well, they're really to be enjoyed with food. So that's what I did. You can tell I'm all chirpy, can't you? Yes, I had a glass of wine with my meal, and this is my second small glass for this poured out. And yes, I've been getting quite a lot of that blackcurranty, almost a jammy. When you've got a pot of jam open, it's that almost that sort of fragrance coming across. Let's have a little sip, shall we? And it has got that pepperiness in it. A little bit of heat, a little bit of pepper, not much tannins, but it's got that Shiraz blackcurranty, jammy plumminess. Not too bad. The wine was, it's a special, I think it was in special offer. I think I paid £5.50 for it, but I think it's usually £6.50. And Actually, it tasted better when I was having my food. But, yes, let's have another taste. Nice. But I must admit, it was nice with the food. What food does it suggest it goes with? Let's have a look. With red meat and pasta dishes, mushrooms, risotto or hard cheeses. Being Australian, it naturally goes well with barbecued meats. Well, that's not too bad. If you can get that at £5.50, Muldula, Shiraz, Limestone Coast from Australia, 2009. At that price, it gets a recommendation. Now we're up for a test today because I'm now gone over 15 minutes and I'm hoping that now on YouTube my videos won't get blocked over 15 minutes. But I'm going to stop it now at 16 minutes and hope you can both find it on blip.tv, daveac. You can find this video at worldtv.com, maybe elsewhere on the internet, but possibly on YouTube, my DAC100 YouTube site. So with that, that's it for vblog 168. Catch you next week, everybody. Thanks for watching.